I want to welcome you all to this gathering this evening. We are gathering to mourn the 13 lives that were ended last week in our country by acts of hatred. And these events occurred in Jeffersontown, Kentucky, and in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So we mourn those lives. We also gather to grieve the level of contentiousness and divisiveness within our nation. And we're also gathering to commit ourselves to our common humanity, standing against hate and hateful division. 11 people, 11 fellow citizens, were killed in their place of worship, Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, on Saturday morning last week. So we're beginning our time of mourning with some introductory words here from Larry Grossman.
I grew up in the shadow of the Holocaust. The vast majority of my family died, never getting out of Europe.
You need to put the microphone.
I grew up in the shadow of the Holocaust. The vast majority of my family never got out of Europe. The stories go on forever, and during all of my lifetime, the Holocaust and anti-Semitism has been real. So I would, without going on at length, I'd like to say that what we are seeing today is bald, unvarnished, very public anti-Semitism. The president may deny it. The head of the NRA may deny it. Our politicians who use anti-Semitic tropes may deny it. But they are utilizing the symbols of anti-Semites, and we need to be aware of it, and it needs to stop.
And in memory of those 11 who were killed on Saturday, Eileen Stern, are you here? I don't see here. Eileen was going to offer the Kaddish, the mourner's Kaddish. And if she is not here, Larry, I'll ask you to step back up and also offer it. I believe you'll do it in Hebrew. The English translation is on the back of your program.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shamei Rabbah v'yoma divra shiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh v'chayechun v'yomechon v'chayeh b'chol Beit Yisrael v'agala b'zman kariv v'yimru Amen. V'hei Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam v'lamei almaya yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipachad v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithalal v'yitaleh v'yitalav v'shmei dekudisha b'reichu le'ele min kol berchata v'shirata tush nechata v'nechemata da'miran v'alma v'yimru Amen. Ye'eh shlama rava min shamaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Saturday morning I went into synagogue. That is when I heard about Pittsburgh. One of the people alive but wounded is the cousin of a close friend of mine. So this is 2 degrees of separation. It's way too close. Yes.
And we want to remember those people who most of us have never met, who were killed last week. On your program, there are the names of those 13 people who were targeted based on their ethnic identity. I'd invite us to read together, first the left-hand column and then the right. Maurice Stallard, Vicki Lee Jones, Cecil Rosenthal, Daniel Rosenthal, Jerry Rabinowitz, Irving Younger, Melvin Wax, Bernice Simon, Sylvan Simon, Joyce Feinberg, Richard Godfrey, Daniel Stern, Rose Mellinger. And now, let us pause in silence to mourn for those whose names we may not know, who have been killed in their churches, mosques, temples, or synagogues. For Sikhs, Muslims, African Americans, Jews, Asian Americans, Latinas and Latinos, Pacific Islanders, who have been targeted as they went about their lives and killed based solely on their ethnic heritage. I believe I speak for many for whom the irony of a mass killing taking place in a place called Tree of Life left us gasping. The Tree of Life, of course, is a symbol that's used throughout the world. It has deep meaning. It's a symbol that shows us roots that reach out into our heritage. It has branches that connect us to the future and that help sustain the lives of others. The Tree of Life connects our past and promises a future. It is a terrible thing to be brutally taken from the Tree of Life. And there's a song that comes from the Gullah people who live in the low country region of South Carolina and Georgia and on the Sea Islands nearby. Like Maurice Stallard and Vicki Lee Jones, they are African American. The Gullah people are descendants of the first people forcibly brought to these shores from West Africa. They know what it means to claim the Tree of Life, even when wrenched away from their homeland and heritage with only a bleak future.
I'm JD. The bomb campaign started mysteriously on October 22nd when the first device was found at the home of George Soros, a billionaire Democrat donor. The discovery of explosive devices continued in a rolling wave through the week, sowing fear and discord across the country just ahead of the coming midterm elections. The targets included former President Barack Obama, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, former Attorney General Eric Holder, former CIA Director John Brennan, former Vice President Joe Biden, Senators Kamala Harris and Cory Booker, Representative Maxine Waters, actor Robert De Niro, and Tom Steyer, all vocal critics of President Trump. All the devices were sent in similar manila envelopes and with printed labels bearing the misspelled names and return address of Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a Florida Democrat. The bombs were sent by an ardent Trump supporter who had planned this campaign of domestic terror for months.
On Wednesday afternoon, a heavily armed gunman in Jefferstown, Kentucky, south of Louisville, banged on the doors of the First Baptist Church, a predominantly African-American congregation. There was a weekly prayer service each Wednesday in the early afternoon. If the gunman had come at 1 p.m., he would have walked in on over 30 retirees at prayer. His intentions from the video surveillance footage were clear, but it was 3 o'clock when he arrived and the doors were locked. He left and went to the nearby Kroger supermarket. Maurice Stallard had taken his 12-year-old grandson shopping for a poster board for an art project. His grandson watched as Mr. Stallard was shot in the back of the head multiple times. The grandson ran for help. The gunman left the store and killed Vicki Lee Jones in the parking lot. A white man in the parking lot who had a gun carry permit pulled his weapon as the killer ran. The killer yelled to him, quote, "Don't shoot me. I won't shoot you. Whites don't shoot whites," unquote.
The gunman who came to Tree of Life Synagogue during the Saturday morning service had declared in online rants that he wanted to kill Jews. He had complained, President Trump's Make America Great Again movement cannot succeed so long as Jews infest the country. He left 11 worshipers dead, 9 persons injured and hospitalized, including 4 first responders and a faith community devastated.
All through the week, playing as distorted background music, we heard talk of an invasion of immigrants with active military forces being dispatched to our southern border. Rumors that George Soros and maybe Tom Steyer were funding the invasion. Talk of the, I can't use that word, it starts with a P, using an executive order to undo the provision in the 14th Amendment that guarantees citizenship to all who are born on U.S. soil. What we did not hear was reports on reuniting parents and children separated at the border months ago. We did not hear compelling, presidential compassion, because that's an oxymoron, and calls for unity. That's what we did not hear, and that is why we are here today.
Poet laureate Tom Stanton wrote a poem for the events today based on what happened last week, and I know it was a struggle.
Tell all the people that you meet, we all got a right to the tree of life. This is an untitled poem for today. I stayed up all night trying to write a poem, trying to write a few appropriate words, only to realize there are none. The situation is so impossible. We barely live in these electric times. Absurdities supported by volleys of untruths, delivered at lightning speeds by other less than kind humans. The operative word is no. The operative imperative is us and them. I used to give a thought to coffee or no coffee before going out into the world. Instead, I checked the breaking news, a place under siege, a place at war. Citizens once concerned with improving, refining loose ends, polishing still the small bits of advancement, trying to put shine on development, on what means humanity, not just good and better, real thought, real energy applied to all things improving. That was an arc of constructiveness, real love, real fairness. The relearning of empathy, the very engagement of it, the natural empathy and those that naturally contain it, where now goes such sincerity?
We stand united under leadership which nationally is a vacuum. These words are from our leader, our mayor. Mayor Patterson writes, "We have read the names of the people murdered at the Kroger store in Jeffersontown. We have read the names of the people murdered in the Pittsburgh Tree of Life synagogue, murdered because of hate. And because of love, we mourn these lives taken. Mean, cruel, hateful speech propels mean, cruel, and hateful people to do hideous things. Out of our love, we find the kindness, generosity, and kindred people of all religions, beliefs or not, color, country of origin, and the rainbow list of what makes us all Americans. It is our American grief we join in, and it is our American hope that this will be our last vigil for multiple killings of children, teenagers, young adults, older adults, and worshipers, concert goers, movie goers, social workers, and bar hoppers, and daily street killings as well, those killed by military automatic weapons owned by civilians. Not out of fear, but out of hope, we will continue our fight for freedom to attend church or synagogue or mosque or temple without fear of being murdered, for going to school without fear of being murdered, and for just being regular people, hanging out with other regular people without fear of being murdered. Your grief, the mayor writes, your grief, and I think she's speaking to those in Pittsburgh and Jeffersontown, your grief is my grief. Your hope is my hope. Your sorrow is my sorrow. You and I share these things, and you and I will remember Maurice, Vicki Lee, Cecil, David, Jerry, Irving, Melvin, Rose, Bernice, Sylvan, Joyce, Richard, and Daniel, each and every one. And we will, in their name, and in the name of those murdered by any gun on the streets, in the malls and parking lots, never stop working to make this a better, more loving city and country. She concludes, remember Robert Libman's words, evil tried to shut out a light, but the light refuses to be dimmed. The light shines in our hearts, even in our broken hearts.
As Martin Luther King's statement that an injustice to one is an injustice to all, because we are one. One people, one nation, and we are of one heart, and on days like this, our heart is broken. It can be mended. It will be mended if we take heart, if we join ourselves together. We know that we cannot stand in fragments. We cannot stand alone. There are some words from Michael McBride that we might hear right now.
Good evening. My name is Henry. We dare not stand alone. This moment tells us that all is not well in our republic. Hate is emboldened, and white supremacists are somehow in the mainstream. This is racism. This is anti-Semitism, yes, but it is also a diseased American moment where healing will only begin if we deny terrorism its goal, to isolate us within our particular trauma. We are not alone, and we should not make ourselves alone, even in this incalculable pain. Pastor Michael McBride.
And there are some words that I'd like us to say together that are from President Barack Obama.
Mary Susan has asked me to read the light print and you to chime in on the bold print. These are the words of our former President Barack Obama. And when the arc of progress seems slow, remember, America is not the project of any one person. The single most powerful word in our democracy is
we the people, we shall overcome.
yes.
We can. We shall overcome. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. Oh, deep in my heart, I know that I do believe that we shall overcome someday.
So let's love one another. Let's take care of one another. Let's feel each other's pain and bear each other's burdens and know each other's joy.